everyone, welcome back to Room 237, and now we come to episode 2 of Dexter New Blood, which aired last night on Showtime. And like my review for episode 1, I will give a very big warning before any kind of spoilers. What's more difficult with this and on is in order to talk about the episode at all, it will contain spoilers of the previous episode. And I know not everyone has Showtime or, the streaming service that will have Dexter. So I'm going to try to be very respectful of that and, I guess talk about the absolute basis of each episode and what I liked and disliked. And then when I get into spoilers, I can get into more detail. But this one does pick up right where episode 1 left off. And I really liked this episode. It had some great acting moments between... I think I could say Harrison is in it. I mean, he makes an appearance in the trailer. Everyone knows he's coming. He showed up in episode 1. If you didn't know that, I apologize, but... any juicier detail, it is kind of hard to talk about the basis of each episode without spoiling something. And at least Harrison was in the trailer. But, it picks up right where it left off with him bringing Harrison back home and then them going inside. You have some great acting moments between Michael C. Hall and the kid that plays Harrison. I don't have my tablet in front of me, so I can't get the actor's name, but he kind of looks like that kid, Zach, from Season 8, who was going to be Dexter's protege. I really like the building and the dynamic of their relationship. Actually, my favorite part of the episode is towards the end, where they discuss something as to why Harrison has come to believe why Dexter left in the first place. Wonderful acting between the two of them. This episode is called Storm of Fuck, which I was wondering if they were going to start using an intro with this episode. Because normally with the first episode of a new series, they might not. And they'll start using an intro from episode 2 on. They still didn't, and that kind of makes sense because this does have a very limited series or special season type of vibe to it. So it doesn't really need an intro, but like episode 1, the title, Storm of Fuck, is part of the environment. Like, I know from my review of episode 1, Cold Snap, it was written in snow on the road, and then a car drove by, blew the snow away. Here, the word Storm of Fuck is in shower steam on a mirror. And I do like how they do that. Here, we are introduced to our big bad, our main villain throughout the series. Like other seasons in Dexter, is going to be a very slow build, and then we're going to see... it's probably going to play off like a twist for who it is. But if anyone knows that this actor is in the show, and when they showed the killer, even though it's just, this part of his eye, he's a very identifiable actor, so it's obvious it's him. I don't know if that's what they're going for, or if they just want it, knowing people will pick up on that it's him, but still just reveal it kind of slowly. And we get to see what kind of voyeuristic serial killer he is. But the main thing about the episode is... because I know there's people that don't want to know a single thing about it, so it's kind of hard to talk about, but Dexter has to clean up after himself from the first episode. And just as he's about to do that, not only does his chief of police girlfriend, Angela, come in with the whole police squad to set up home base to look for the missing person, Matt Caldwell, he's also trying to pick up after himself, which is exactly what they're looking for. Now, there are a few things that I'll call BS on, but I guess I should wait till spoilers. Okay, so before I can really get into the plot, which I really do want to save for spoilers, this one is definitely... So the first episode laid the groundwork for the town he's in, his role in that town, what people think of him, what his day-to-day life consists of. We definitely see more Dexter Morgan in this episode, which I was very glad to see. Also, Deb has changed quite a bit in this one. And it makes sense because you go through the first 8 seasons. Obviously, Harry wanted a normal life for Dexter, but he kind of knew, you can't be normal. You are stuck as this serial killer forever. So he was the voice of reason, but able to guide him in his killings. Deb was the only person that ever kept him balanced and centered. So when she died, he lost that. And she wants him to stay Jim Lindsay and not a serial killer and to be exiled. She embodies that whole idea. So episode 1, where he was Jim Lindsay and everything was fine before anything happened, she was very loving. And then when Harrison decided to come back, she was very angry or worried. But now that he's welcomed Harrison back into his life, and he did what he did the first episode, this episode we see Deb as very wrathful. She's full of wrath and scorn, almost to the point of being antagonistic. I mean, there's a point where she's ticking on the glass of a window with her bullet until it shatters. And then this part's a little over the top, but it gets the point across, where she comes up behind him and she puts her hand in his mouth, holding his jaw open, putting the bullet in his mouth, saying if you don't end up killing him, you'll certainly fuck him up. He can't be with you. And then other times when Dexter's trying to do what he needs to do, she's just kind of laughing at him. They do some neat things that they didn't quite do with Harry very much, which is he'll walk right past her and then she'll be right in front of him again. She's definitely more ghostly than Harry was, I guess, and I kind of like that. This does have... It still has some of that humor that everyone knew from that awkward humor. I mean, this still has a very sort of gray, gloomy atmosphere and feel to it, especially the scenes in Dexter's cabin, where it's just this gray, kind of muted, a depressing feeling look. Polar opposite of the bright, vibrant, upbeat Miami, which I think is the point. But, it opens up with him, his inside his head being what can I possibly say to the son that I abandoned? Then the only thing he can say is, you got big. Just that awkward humor that we always knew the show to be. It still has some of that, even with its, it shows that they are taking it seriously, but also staying true to the characters. They're also leaving it kind of open and ambiguous for what kind of character Harrison's going to be. I mean, for now, he seems like a kid that just wants answers, and he wants to know what happened to his dad and, where he is in his life. But they're dropping hints for certain avenues where they could take him, and I think that's very interesting. I mean, it shows that he's able to mingle with the popular kids in school, which Dexter even says, you can hide out in the house if you want to. He's like, no, I'm good. He goes, he hangs out with the pretty girls and the jocks. But then it shows that he's able to pick a lock pretty easily. He's able to lie very easily. So, it's like he's normal, but he takes after Dexter in certain ways. And it's, which way are they going to go with it? I think that's very interesting. Really not much else to say unless I get spoilers. But, yeah, this one was definitely... You can definitely tell the ball is rolling with this one because they only have 10 episodes. And I don't care what people say. I know people love to speculate. Even if this wins all the awards in the world, they are ending it with this season. If it does really well, and people only care about money, so of course they'll do a season 2. No, they said they are done after this. So it feels like, they're taking their time with this slow build-up while getting the ball rolling and getting to the point kind of quickly because they have so many episodes. They're going at the perfect pace, essentially. It was still great acting from Michael C. Hall. This episode was definitely more Dexter Morgan than it was Jim Lindsay, which I liked. And we sort of got introduced to what kind of villain Dexter's going to be going up against at some point. I think it was a very good episode. Some people might call it more of a slower, more dramatic episode, but I think it worked. And, came in at the right time. And my favorite scene was one with Dexter and Harrison towards the end of the episode, when they talk about the reason as to why Dexter abandoned him, or the reason Harrison believes so. Great acting from the two of them. So with that, I'm going to get into spoilers. There were a couple things that I kind of were like, I wish they didn't do that. But it's still very minor. Just like with episode 1, the only negative I could give it was that there was some CGI. With this, it's more of a creative idea that will be carried throughout the whole season, but it's still very minor. It's something I can forgive, and then one thing that I think is open-ended, and we'll see what happens. So for now, spoilers. So one thing I wasn't the biggest fan of was in the opening scene with Dexter and Harrison sitting at the table. Harrison mentions that after Hannah died, that's when he decided to look for Dexter. Which, okay, Hannah died. I was never a fan of Hannah anyway, but he says she died of cancer 3 years ago. I would be surprised if there was a twist that Harrison is a little, does take after Dad a little too much, and maybe he killed her, or it could be a twist that something else happened, possibly dealing with Harrison. But even if they leave it as she died of cancer, I'll be fine with that. But one thing I wasn't the biggest fan of was, I guess Dexter wrote Hannah a letter at some point between the finale and her death, which kind of goes against everything. He was supposed to let her believe he died, but then he writes her a letter even after he faked his death. And that idea I wasn't the biggest fan of, but it does kind of help explain how Harrison was able to find him. Because it was a good reference to the finale, because he says, the return address led me to Oregon. I was able to find the place you worked, find out you left. So, he did go to Oregon to become a lumberjack, which I never hated. I I disliked season 8, but that final scene after he faked his death and everything, I liked that. So, yeah, the whole thing about writing her a note wasn't the biggest fan of, but it does help explain how Harrison was able to find him. But towards the end, my favorite scene, which is when Harrison asked Dexter if he left because of what he wrote, which is when he says, he has the note and it says, "Contact me if Harrison has any dark tendencies." So Harrison is led to believe that there was something wrong with him, and that's why Dexter left. And again, it's great acting. Dexter's very emotional, and you can tell he's not faking it. Harrison's emotional. It's just great scene between two actors, but also the characters. He has to say, there's a darkness within me. I had to protect you from that. It's not anything you did. Also, after your mother and your aunt died, I was in a very dark place. Very, very well acted scene. And I did like that. Also, it was fun. He doesn't exactly go back to doing blood spatter, but it is fun to see Dexter back on a crime scene, even if it is in secret, and doing the classic Dexter tampering where he has to send everyone off in a different direction. That's back. Because after he killed Matt Caldwell, which I will say, I don't think Dexter would have ever been sloppy enough to have a huge blood trail in the snow from his cabin to where he hit him with the butt of a rifle. So it shows him covering up all those blood tracks. Also with his RTV, which I guess Harrison doesn't notice the blood. But it shows him, he does take Windex to clean the rock that Matt's head landed on. So he's not exactly doing blood spatter, but he knows how to get rid of blood other than just throwing snow on it. And this is a scene where Deb is just kind of laughing at Dexter. Like, you think that's going to help? Really? Like, wow, you're such a moron. So she's acting like herself when she was alive, and she was just kind of being like a ball-busting sister. But also part of her scornful mood that she's in because Dexter's changing his life. But it was fun to see Dexter on a crime scene again, and then he takes Matt's glove and he plants it so they all think he, ran off somewhere. Classic Dexter, I liked that. And I knew Clancy Brown was going to be in this episode, so when they show the transient girl that Angela was talking to at the bar in the last episode, she's in this, and she ended up in some hotel or motel where there's chocolate strawberries and champagne. Then she gets sick. We get the idea she was poisoned. And there's a hidden camera in her room, which when they show where the camera is, I don't know how she didn't notice it. But when they showed the person watching it, it's just like this part of their eye. And if you know Clancy Brown is in this season, it's very obvious that it's his eye. I mean, like I said, he's a very identifiable person. So yeah, I don't know if they were trying to keep it secret until the reveal, or if they know people will pick up on it and they still just want to do it piece by piece. But at the end, Clancy Brown comes in, find out he's Matt's father, and just as everyone's about to leave and close the case on Matt Caldwell, that he ran off somewhere, he comes back in and gets everyone to continue looking for his son. And he is this big, powerful, rich, powerful figure in the town. We also get to see what kind of voyeuristic, sort of taunting kind of serial killer he is. Because there's this actually creepy scene when the girl in the hotel room wakes up and she goes to walk outside her room, and the door has no knob, and her cell phone is gone. Is kind of like she's trapped in this old boy type room. And then she sees the camera right underneath that says "You're already dead." So he's this sort of cat toying with his prey type of voyeuristic uh, predator, which is interesting. I also like to see where Dexter explains that why he chose the middle of nowhere is because there's no crime, but to him that means no temptation to go after people. So then when the high school comes to help out with the search for Matt Caldwell, he notices some of the pretty girls and the jocks, and Dexter's like, hey, if you want to go hide so you don't have to hang out with these people, he's like, Dad, I got it. So, and even Deb is like, he's not an awkward as fuck blooming serial killer like you were. He's actually cool. So it shows he is able to mingle with kids, and then they go to this shut down summer camp with cabins so they can drink and smoke. But he's able to pick the lock very easily, or at least rip the hardware off the door very easily. So he does take after Dexter in other ways. Like I was going to show, multiple avenues. How much of Dexter is he, and is it very superficial stuff, or is he going to be this sort of monster character as well? And is it going to reveal that Hannah's death was because of him for whatever reason? I'm not sure. Again, if they leave Hannah's death at cancer, I'll be fine with it. But yeah, I did like this episode. It's okay that he doesn't have to kill someone every episode, especially if it's just as interesting and compelling without the kill. Like, this is all aftermath. It pretty much takes place all in the day after, essentially. And I can't wait for the next episode. I loved this one. This one definitely had more Dexter in it than Jim Lindsay, and I get why. It's not to say that's better, because the previous episode had to lay the groundwork for everything, and I think it worked for what that did. This one worked for what this one did, and I can't wait for season 3. This is working towards being a very solid, worthy send-off or finale season for Dexter. Well written, well acted. It's keeping me guessing on different avenues it can take, while showing just enough to get your mind thinking about different things and directions of where it could go without it seeming too ridiculous. The only things I would really call BS on would be, and even if he knew he left all that blood behind, but then Harrison showed up and then all the police showed up, he didn't have a chance to clean up after himself because it was random. And he's been out of practice for 10 years. But also the fact he wrote Hannah a letter. But I can even see the good in that, which because it meant Harrison, that's how he was able to find him. So again, even the negatives, there are some good that came out of it, or you can at least wrap your head around how that works. And I'm very excited for season 3. This is going to be a very good season. So stay tuned for next week for the episode 3 review, and thank you for watching.